few years ago, I stood in the kitchen, looked at my husband, and said very calmly, I'm about to fuck shit up. Now, don't get me wrong, this wasn't a threat. I was very calm, but something in me had cracked open. I was about 15 years into stay-at-home motherhood, and I'd become someone I didn't even recognize. Maybe you know the feeling when you've done everything right, checked all the boxes, yet you feel like you're disappearing. Like your life is full, but you are empty. That was me. I had spent years building the perfect checklist: the husband, the car, the kids, the carpool, the dog. But inside, I felt hollow, invisible, like my body was showing up, but the rest of me had tapped out. I realized I'd lost something vital. There was a piece missing in the puzzle of my life: my joy, my aliveness, my curiosity, my eros, that erotic essence, my pleasures, and I wanted it back. And I don't just mean sexual pleasure, but though, let's be real, that too. I'm talking about that feeling that you get in your belly, that fired up, lit up feeling when you pursue a passion or a goal. The yes in your body when you're living from desire and not just duty. So I started exploring, and not through more therapy or being in my head. I had done enough of that. What I needed was embodiment. So I danced, I yogaed, and I self-pleasured. Masturbation, revolutionary pleasure just for me and nobody else. And I learned something that no one ever taught me in school or at that HR meeting or a polite dinner table, and especially not in motherhood. Pleasure is not a reward. It's your birthright. Imagine a world treating emotional health, career fulfillment, and physical fitness as essential, and spin sexuality, passion, and desires with whispers and taboos. Well, that's the world we live in. Even though sexual wellness is proven foundational to mental health, it remains largely invisible. The World Health Organization affirms that sexual health is fundamental to individuals, entire societies, and families. We've been fed a myth that our sex is shameful and taboo. Some of us grew up in cultures without any language for sexual wellness, and shamed, or worse, if we tried. Like a flower snipped just before it had a chance to bud. We've been taught to joke about it, shame it. Those of us who exist as women were shamed away from our pleasure, and those of us who exist as men were ridiculed for accessing it. Hairy palms? Anyone? Lose, right? So we've all heard that your power comes from within, but if we dive just a little bit deeper, we realize that your magic is actually created through pleasure. Creative pleasure, playful pleasure, decadent pleasure, intellectual pleasure. And I don't just mean metaphorically. Science backs me up on this. Pleasure literally lights up your brain like a Christmas tree. Dopamine gets a bad rap these days. TikTok, the scrolling. But that's your go get it hormone. That's your I want more hormone. Oxytocin, that's your bonding hormone. It softens stress and increases trust, not just with other, but within yourself. Not just outsourcing your trust to another, but really feeling deep into your own yes and no, and knowing, I got me. Cortisol, that little stress hormone, well, pleasure helps decrease that. Cultivating sexual wellness and pleasure is not just something to do when you're bored, although you can do that too. It's medicine. Now, I don't want you to just hear this. I want you to feel it. Not like that. We're going to do a little breath work. So if you feel comfortable, I'd like you to close your eyes or lower your gaze and get comfortable in your seat. Place one hand on your heart and one hand on your lower belly. And I want us to take about 90 seconds to just sit in presence. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose, down into the depths of your belly, and let it out through your mouth, and let your shoulders just drop. Good. Now, next breath in, I want you to imagine that breath going all the way down the back of your throat, in through your body and into your lower belly where your sex center lives. In through the nose, expanding the belly, out through the mouth, pushing that sexual energy up through your body. On your own breathing rhythm, on every inhale, expanding your lower belly, expanding your pelvic floor, expanding into your sex center. And on every exhale, pushing that powerful energy up through your body. Good. Let's do that one more time. Allow yourself that space to breathe in, accessing your sexual energy, bringing attention to a space on your body that you're likely not going to bring attention to in a room full of 100 people again. And let that come on up through your body. Good. Now, when you're ready, open your eyes, come on back. What you just practiced was just presence. That was aliveness and eroticism. That was you accessing your sexual energy and witnessing your sex center for wellness. Now, here's why this matters. When you're stuck in survival mode, your sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which we usually are, your nervous system is in chaos. Pleasure and stress cannot exist at the same time. But pleasure helps you access your parasympathetic nervous system, your calm state, your rest, digest, heal, and feel. Touch, breath, laughter, and orgasm all help you return to self. Self-pleasure is one of the most elite forms of self-regulation and self-intimacy that we have. And I'm not just talking about the orgasms, although you know I think they are divine. Studies show that people who self-pleasure regularly report increased body image, reduced stress and anxiety, and deeper sleep. Who doesn't need a good beauty sleep? I do. And you don't need a partner to access your sexual pleasure or your wellness. You are whole all on your own. And while witnessing ourselves through the lens of other in relationship is important, when you reclaim your own pleasure, your own sexual wellness, rather than outsourcing it, something shifts. You stop performing. You start listening to your body and your personal curiosities. You set better boundaries, and you stop choosing people who can't hold the fully turned on, radiant, big version of you. And you all deserve to be loved in your bigness. I've seen this again and again with my clients. When they reconnect to their pleasure, they don't just get orgasms. They get more clarity, more truth, more power, and authenticity. Because once you know what your yes and your no feel like, you can't keep settling for maybe. You can't keep showing up and settling for being small. Now, let me be real with you. This path isn't always easy. When I ventured into this, and you guys may not be talking about your masturbation in public, relationships fell away, friendships pulled away, even my marriage. We had to relearn how to meet each other again. Because when you find your missing puzzle piece, it shakes things up. But what's on the other side is freedom, agency, and truth. Not because life is perfect, but because you are anchored in something you no longer outsource to anyone else. So yeah, a few years ago, I looked at my husband and I said, I'm about to fuck shit up. And I did. I tore down a version of me that was built on approval, obedience, and exhaustion. But what was rebuilt was a woman who was lit up, rooted in her wisdom and intuition, turned on and no longer afraid of her power or her bigness. So here's what I want to leave you with today. Everyone deserves access to their own sexual wellness and pleasure. This is not frivolous. It's not a reward. It's paramount to your overall mental health and wellness, and the conduit for you showing up big in your life. We cannot be upset with our relationships for not loving us big when we continue to show up small. Every time you say yes to your pleasure, you're not just healing your body, you're reclaiming something the world tried to tame. And that is power. That is resilience, redefined. Thank you.